Hey everyone, it's the Angry Honey Badger, and it is time to take a look at the preseason balance update number 2. So we're going to take a look at those patch notes that Riot has provided with us. We're going to go over those. I'll give you my opinion on them, and yeah, just cover everything that's going to be happening in the patch that just came up. So first off, we have Thresh, who's going to be the next champion introduced to League. He is still in testing, so we probably will see him at a later date. Maybe they did throw him in last second, but I don't know if they did for sure, because I haven't actually played this patch yet. But we're going to talk about it. So, going over the champions that are in the game currently, Alistar, we have a base movement speed increased by 5, not too much, and then a headbutt range increased a little bit. So, going to help him out a little bit. Nothing really major, but just kind of nice for him. Next, we do have Amumu, the Cursed Touch. The magic resist reduction reduced at later levels, so not really affecting him too much as well, but just a little bit of a change. Next, we do have Annie. Disintegrate mana cost is being reduced, which is going to be nice for her. Incinerate targeting cone is now attached to her instead of unattached. And then the Molten Shield, there's going to be a cooldown reduced on that by 6 seconds, and the duration of it's also going to be reduced. So kind of a similar thing going on there. So nothing major changing on Annie, just a little mana stuff and just little tweaks, I'd call them for the most part. Nothing major to affect their gameplay though. Next, we do have Blitzcrank. Mana barrier cooldown is being increased by 30 seconds, which does kind of make some sense. It comes up really, really often, so I can see why they were doing this. And then now Rocket Grab will give vision when it hits a target, so if you grab somebody from a bush, you're going to automatically get that vision and be able to see them right away instead of all of a sudden somebody coming back to you. So that's going to be happening with Blitzcrank, so nothing major really changing to him as well. Next, we do have Cho'Gath, Feral Scream. We have the targeting cone that is going to be attached to him. This is a theme you're going to see in this patch. They're going to be taking these targeting cones on certain champions and attaching it to them now. So it might change their gameplay a tiny bit just on how you cast stuff, but won't really change them overall. Next, we do have Corky Gatling Gun. The mana cost is being reduced on that. Later ranks, really, for the most part, but early on it's the same. Next, we have some changes to Diana. Pale Cascade, the orb detonation has been adjusted to better match her basic attack range. And then we have a shield duration, which is going to be increased by 1 second on that. And then Lunar Rush cast range is being increased. I've heard a lot of people calling this a buff. I wouldn't necessarily call it a buff. I obviously wouldn't be a nerf, but I'd call it an adjustment. Because, yeah, this will help her a tiny bit, but not numbers and real hardcore damage wise, so don't really look at this as a buff. It's just kind of an adjustment of her skills. Next, we are taking a look at Evelynn. Hate Spike, the mana cost is going to be increased on that, and the bonus attack damage ratio is also going to be increased on that as well. Ravage, the damage is being reduced at later ranks, and then the bonus attack damage ratio is going to go up on that as well. Agony's Embrace, the damage charged to 15, or it's changed to 15, 20, and 25 of the current health from 15, 20, 25 of their max health. So a little less damage if they're already missing some of their health now. And then the cooldown is being increased on it, and the cast range is being reduced on it. Overall, this is a combination of a buff and a nerf. You're getting some increases for attack damage stuff, so now I think her attack damage side will be a little more viable. Because she's a champion, you could kind of play either way for the most part. But this is going to help even her out, and especially this little bit they're changing to Hate Spike. This is going to help her just be less ridiculous, hopefully, with how much she could just spam this without it affecting her at all. And really, I mean, these adjustments aren't enormous for the mana costs, but it's something that they just won't be able to spam quite as much because Evan's a very strong champion, especially in the right hands right now, especially at her AP side. So a little bit of a change to her, but really shouldn't screw up her gameplay. She should still be pretty strong. Pretty minor tweaks, but still effective. Next, we have Ezreal. His basic attack speed is going to be reduced by just a tiny bit. Then we have Kassadin with Force Pulse. We have fixed an issue with that, which would sometimes fire backward after using Rift Walk, which I have seen this happen before, so that'll be nice that they fix that. Next, we have a little change to Katarina. Her base movement speed is being reduced by 5, so that's going to slow her down just a tiny bit. And then Sinister Steel movement speed is going to also be adjusted to be a little bit less later on and a little more early. So a little bit of adjustment there. Not really neither a buff nor a nerf, really. I mean, tiny bit of a nerf in some aspects, but probably not going to really affect her damage too much. Then we have Ken, and his basic attack has been returned, so it's more responsive, which I would agree it needed. It just doesn't seem like he was last hitting correctly. Like, it didn't feel timely when it was happening, so this will be a nice little change to him. Then we have Kha'Zix's unseen threat damage is going to be reduced at later levels to 15 to 190 from 15 to 220, and then the slow is going to be reduced by 10%, and then Taste Their Fear, the bonus attack damage ratio is being reduced by 0.1, which isn't too much, and Isolation bonus attack damage ratio is being reduced to 2.0 from 2.4, so tiny bit of a change on Kha'Zix. He is a pretty strong champion right now if you build him just straight damage. And he's a little squishier that way. I like to build him a little more bruiser, but this is just going to help adjust him because if he got a little bit ahead early, which with some other champions they steamroll too, and you can't really catch up, but he was a major problem if he'd get 1 or 2 kills within the first 10 minutes, so kind of unstoppable. So hopefully this will kind of bring him back down just a little bit. Next, we have Lee Sin Safeguard. There's going to be a bug fixed where the tooltip was incorrectly stated that Lee Sin regained energy from the shield was broken. Iron Will no longer grants armor while active, and the Lifesteal and Spell Vamp are actually going to be increased on that a little bit, at later ranks especially. And then we have Cripple. The slow amount is going to be reduced at earlier ranks because it was a little bit too much early on, especially at a level 1 gank. You just felt like you couldn't move, especially early. And the range is also being reduced on that. So kind of a combination of a buff and nerf here. Probably shouldn't affect Lee Sin's game too much. Lee Sin's a pretty strong champion when played correctly, so a little bit of skill behind him, but for the most part, shouldn't really affect him too much. The good Lee Sin players will still be good with him. Next, we have Mordekaiser, the Siphon of Destruction. Targeting cone is also going to be attached to him now. And then next, we have a few little changes to Nami. We have her base movement speed being increased by 5. Her Aqua Prison, the cooldown is going to be reduced on that, which is going to be helpful. A little bit because early on it's kind of long. I mean, they're shaving off a couple seconds now at level 1, so that'll be helpful. And then Tidal Wave missile speed is going to be increased by 100. So I hope this does help Nami a lot because she is a champion I kind of had some builds ready for, but I didn't release them because I actually don't really like Nami, and I feel like she's still kind of weak. So hopefully this helps her out a little bit. Not like really weak, just like she would use what she had, and I felt like then she just kind of was like done. And I know that there's other supports like that, but Nami, she needs just some little changes that should hopefully help her, and hopefully these are a start to those. So hopefully I will not return her as a champion because she would be the first thing I'd ever return. So, but I've thought about it. Next we have Rengar. We have the Bone Tooth Necklace, now grants +5 attack damage. We have Unseen Predator. They've fixed a bug where Rengar could leap while rooted. Savagery, attack speed duration is going to be increased to 4 seconds from 3 seconds, so you'll get an extra second on that, and they fixed a bug with it as well. And then we have Battle Roar. The Empowered Battle Roar now heals for 60 to 400 based on your champion level instead of 10% of his health. So kind of a little bit of a different change on how that's going to work for him. And then Thrill of the Hunt's initial delay has been reduced by 0.25 seconds. So that's what's going on there. And then the stealth duration has been increased by 2 seconds. So you could call these a tiny bit of a buff to Rengar. I know a lot of people that I've seen in videos have complained about Rengar being underpowered since he did get some nerfs. Guys, he really hasn't become underpowered. I saw him get a pentakill the other day still. Like, Rengar's still really viable with the correct build. The build video I have for him that's up, that is still the way to go in my opinion. It still works amazingly. And you can just still annihilate targets. I think a lot of people, they see something get nerfed and they immediately think it's horrible. And that's not the case. Go still play the champion and try it out. Usually these adjustments aren't enormous. They're just to help the champion. Because he was pretty strong. So he is in a good place still. Especially if you're good with him, you're still going to murder people with him. So don't really always believe what you hear or what you think. Next, we do have some stuff happening to Riven that I personally think is long overdue for her. We have her base health regen being reduced to 6 from 10.4. We have health regen per level being reduced by 0.4. Valor, the shield amount is actually going to be increased on this a little bit, not too much, but a little bit. And then Blade of the Exile, the cooldown is going to be increased on that especially early on, and then the targeting tone is now attached to her as well. Riven is a very strong champ, and when played really like a bully top lane, she's almost unstoppable against a lot of champions. So this kind of needed to happen. She was way too easy to maintain in the lane without really having to get anything to help her do that, especially with her health regen stats and her base health and all that stuff, all these little stats at the beginning that they're tweaking. So hopefully that does help. They kind of did correct this by, putting a little bit more shield on Valor. So they're trying to work it in that way so it's an ability, not just an overall just kind of being tanky, because she could jump in and do a little bit too much and sustain a little too well. So hopefully this brings Riven down to the part where just bully Rivens aren't going to be overpowered feeling. Next we have some changes to Shaco. Hallucinate, controlling the clone, no longer reveals Shaco in a bush, and then fixed a bug that prevented Shaco from casting it for the rest of the game for certain circumstances. So just a couple of tweaks to him. Next we have some changes to Syndra. Transcendent now increases the range of unleashed power by 75 at max rank, and then Scatter the Weak, almost said Shatter, Scatter the Weak, cooldown reduced at later ranks a little bit, so that's going to help her out just a tiny bit. So I could even call this a little bit of a buff if you want to, not really too much, but a little bit. I think Syndra actually is in a pretty good spot. I know a lot of people think she's bad, and a lot of people who play her aren't good with her, but played well, Syndra is... she's a force to be reckoned with, and especially since a lot of people don't see her play, they don't really know what to deal with when they have to fight against her. So she's kind of a surprise pick. So if you're somebody who likes to play Orianna or somebody like that, give Syndra a try, because she's a lot of fun, and with a little bit of work with her, you can get a great reward. So just to remember that, Syndra's a good champion. Next we're taking a look at Talon. Noxian Diplomacy. The bleed damage is going to be reduced on that quite a bit, and then the bleed bonus attack damage ratio is going to be reduced as well. Cutthroat, they fixed a bug where the damage amplification did not actually apply, and they also fixed another bug that would sometimes cause Talon's Rake to fire backwards, causing Cutthroat. So that happens, and hopefully those are going to be fixed now, like they said. We have Shadow Assault. The damage is going to be reduced at later ranks on that, and the bonus attack damage ratio is also being reduced. Now, this is kind of a decent-sized nerf, you would call it, to Talon. To be honest, this is one reason why I hadn't made a Talon build video. I knew he was probably going to get a nerf because he's kind of strong and a little broken. So I kind of avoid that if I know major changes are coming to champions, or if I think major changes are coming to champions, just so I don't put out something that immediately would be null and void. He should still hurt plenty if he's played, like I said, correctly, which, I mean, that's how you get the most out of most champions, if you play him well. But this shouldn't really ruin his game. Future buff, I don't know, maybe. But this we'll see where this puts him, and we'll see how it goes for now. Next, we have Udyr. We have his Monkey's Agility. Now additionally increases his armor and magic resist by 4% per stack. Next we have a bunch of just bug fixes to Vi. So we have Bolt Breaker, we got some stuff where it would not refund the mana, or the cooldown was interrupted, or they fixed a bug where Bolt Breaker would sometimes render Vi incapable to cast spells. So there's a bunch of just like bug fixes with Vi. Excessive Force increased the responsiveness of her attacks after using it, which is kind of nice. It did kind of need a little bit of that because it felt a little off. And then a bunch of fixes on Assault and Battery. So just a lot of bug fixes, to say the least. So not going to really go too hardcore into those. But bug fixes being worked on, and I still think she's really fun. I do think she actually is about where she needed to be when she came out. So hopefully we don't see any real nerfs or buffs with her, because she's just a good champion. So give her a shot if you haven't yet. And then finally, as for champions, we have Ziggs, the short fuse. The cooldown indicator now more accurately shows when short fuse is available. So, kind of a change right there. And those are our champion changes. Now next, we're going to get into the jungle. We have a few things happening with Wraiths and Lesser Wraiths and Giant Wolf and Golem and Small Golem. Base healths are going to be reduced on a few of these and increased on a few of these. We got increase for golden health on Wraiths, reduced health on the Lesser Wraiths. Giant Wolf Gold increase, also the health is increased. And a bunch of other fun stuff. Most of this stuff is just a little bit of changes, but shouldn't affect things too much, just something to remember. Like the gold increases, though. Those will hopefully be helpful for the junglers. And then we have a bunch of tweaks, I would call them, to some items in the game, and we can go over those right now as well. So we have Manamune. We have the attack damage increased to 20 from 10, which honestly is probably a good thing. A lot of people like Manamune on a lot of champions. I do have a build video coming up where I do build this on a champion. I do not build Manamune often because it really doesn't give you that much attack damage in comparison to other items. Because you can get one and you can stack other items with mana to help increase your overall mana, but you're still only getting like maybe 60 or 70 out of it, which when you're sacrificing 3 or 4 other item slots to help with Manamune, it doesn't always reward itself perfectly on every champion. So I think there's a few select champions that works awesome on, and then I think it's overused on a few other champions. So, and I mentioned this in other build videos with the champions that I see it built on that don't really need it. But this is going to help give it a little more damage with this little bit of an increase. So this should be helpful for Manamune people who enjoy building it too often. Next we do have the Archangel's Staff. We have the ability power increased on it by 10, and the mana charge amount increased by 1. And then we have the Crystalline Flask. The cost is actually going to be increased on this quite a bit to 345 from 225, but it's going to also restore 120 health and 60 mana over 12 seconds from its 100 health and 40 mana over 10. So it's a little pricier now, so as a level 1 item, this is a coin flip now. Kind of comes down to your personal preference, because before you could buy it and pick up a handful of other stuff that was nice, but luckily this does give us more health and mana over time. So this will be interesting. Not a huge change, but we'll see how it'll affect early game and who buys it early now. Next, we do have the Crucible. No longer targets allied minions, which is good. Last Whisper, the combined cost is going to be increased to 2,300 from 2,135. The Hextech Gunblade Spellvamp is now unique on that item, so it's non-stackable for that. Iceborne Gauntlet, the duration of the slow field is going to be reduced by 1 second. Not a huge deal there, but just a little bit of a change. Slow percentage being reduced just by 5%. Not a huge change, but just a little bit to help it from being so ridiculous. And then the slowing field now displays team color rings, so that's kind of cool. Next, we do have the Philosopher's Stone, which now correctly grants 5 gold per 10 seconds. It actually was broken. It was only doing 4 gold per 10, so good little fix there. Probably just a bug in the data for them. The enchantment Home Guard. Home Guard now works immediately after purchasing the enchantment, which is kind of cool. Spirit of the Elder Lizard now grants 10% cooldown reduction. Spirit of the Spectral Wraith. Can't talk today. Kind of a bad talking day. Ability power has been increased on that by 10, and the cooldown reduction is no longer unique. So a little bit of a change there. Sanguine Blade. Combined cost is being reduced by 300, and the attack damage is being increased by 5, not 15. I almost lied. The attack damage per stack is being increased by 1, and the max stacks are going to be reduced by 2. So some changes there. Blackfire Torch, new recipe. Well, this is kind of a change then. Cage's Lucky Pick, Finished Codex, Haunting Guise. Total cost is gonna go to 3950 total. Ability power ratio increased, and the cooldown reduction has also been increased and now grants 10 mana regen for 5 seconds. So kind of a big buff, but obviously it's going to cost a different amount and build differently. So Blackfire Torch is a cool item. I do like it on certain champions, and it gives a handful of good stats. So something to consider if you're mana based, or even if you're not really, you could still get it because it's got that awesome nonsense to it. So Blackfire Torch, some changes there. Next, we have Will of the Ancients, a new recipe. It's Cage's Pick and a Hextech Revolver now, which I kind of like this combo because Cage's Pick is kind of awesome instead of blasting one. So a little early gold per 5 maybe would be helpful for you. So that's going to be cool. And the total cost of it is 2550 now. So a little change there. Twin Shadows ability power is being reduced by 10, and the magic resist is being increased by 10. The movement speed is being increased by 1% as well. So a little change to Twin Shadows, nothing crazy though. Banner of Command, ability power reduced by 10, but grants 10% cooldown reduction. Banshee's Veil, combined cost is going to be increased by 110, and the health is actually going to be increased on it by 100, so that's a decent trade. Ninja Tabby, once again, reduces 10% damage from all basic attacks rather than only champion basic attacks. So, yeah, that's what's going on there. Lindry's Torment, we have health increased by 100, and the ability power reduced by 10. And then we have Wiglet's Witch Cap. We have a new recipe for that. We have Blasting Wand and a Blasting Wand and Chain Vest. And the total gold is 3,500. And the armor reduced to 40 from 50. Hextech Sweeper, new unique passive. Trap Detection. Nearby stealth enemy traps are revealed. And then we have Spectral Lantern, attack damage reduced by 5. And then we have the Lightbringer remade, a new recipe, Grease Spectral Lantern, and we have the pickaxe with that. Total gold is 24, 25, 50 attack damage, 20 armor, 12% lifesteal, and some unique passives, obviously, from the basic attack stuff and the trap thing and all that fun stuff. So, that's remade. Yeah, fun stuff. Masteries, Pickpocket now displays a buff timer after attacking, which is going to be nice because this was something that would have been nice to have, so this is kind of cool now. Some changes to Twisted Tree Line, not going to go over that. Blade of the Ruined King is going to be in Proving Grounds, some co-op versus AI stuff, little tweaks, spectators, gold totals, ranked. They added new medals for Season 3 participation, new UI stuff for fun. You can read some of this if you would like. General turrets now prioritize minions in the following orders. Player-owned minions such as Tibbers or like Zyra plants or all of that. So it's going to go to those first. And then super minions, cannon minions, melee minions, caster minions. So basically the most powerful ones first, or unit ones from champions, and then down to the weak ones. So little change there. So it's not quite so random because turrets, man, kind of random sometimes. And they've also done a bunch of other little fixing things, and not really going to go over this because this is plenty long enough as a video already. But we pretty much hit all the important things, guys. If you have any questions about any of the changes, put those in the comments below. If you have a negative or positive response to any of the changes that happened in this patch, discuss amongst yourselves in the comments. And smash down that like button. Don't break your monitors. And other than that, guys, I just guess I'll see all of you in the next video.